Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are over the world. So we have the pleasure today to have a guest in our studio virtually on his screen and on your screens. And we touch a topic which we found quite thrilling. What is the magic in no-code, low-code programming? How can it be utilized in a way that even to honestly talk about myself, stupids which have not a knowledge after they learned COBOL and C++ and Pascal and BASIC, they have no attitude towards programming. So what is daily life getting enriched by the opportunity of low-code, no-code technology? We found the opportunity to invite Gregg Baxter, and he did say yes, and is our guest of this hour. Welcome, Gregg, and hello, and the floor is yours, and please tell the audience and us a bit about yourself, your background, and how you came to the fascinating world of no-code and low-code.
Thank you very much, Rolf. Thanks, Thomas. Thanks, Marshall. Thanks for the invite. Hesitant. I think why? Because there's a lot to talk about. And obviously, judging by my age, if you want me to introduce myself, this is going to take a while. Yeah, my name is Gregg Baxter. I'm the CEO of a company called Usio, which is a startup, USIO, which stands for User Experience Studio. We're based out of Zurich in Switzerland. We've got teams in the States and here. We've been building since 2019. Back to my history. Well, yeah, give away my age. Probably one of the first few people to have a Windows operating system running on a PC back in the days when mainframe programming was the flavor of the day. Went from there to networking, bumped into a very special person, which I think we all know, Raymond Gerber, or Gerbers, maybe some people know him as the godfather of the user experience, the user journey, customer journey. Introduced me at that stage. I was programming COBOL, programming speed, programming with DBase, to a new technology which was declarative 4GL, an application called Magic, which some of you may know, still a company. Later went on to get involved with the analog to digital conversion, got involved with SIM cards, got involved with mobile phone and satellite technology, started distributing technology, got into a media company to educate the people that were distributing this technology, had radio shows, TV shows all about this technology, did an exit, went and studied law, ended up back in Switzerland a couple of years later, met up again with Raymond Gerber, who told me all about Salesforce, which was just starting up. Met Mark Benioff. I got involved with Apex coding and then thought about, well, this doesn't make sense, writing code and then writing test code, doing double work. There must be another interface. Started doing some research, started building some ideas, bumped into Zach McElrath and Ben Hubbard, who are my partners today, who were just testing out a low-code solution, and got involved with commercializing one of the first low-code platforms back in 2013. Long journey, did an exit, and then decided to start again and make a difference. So here we are.
Okay, now there you are getting challenged right away. There's this friend of ours, Wolfram, who says you are being obsolete.
That's why you can understand my hesitancy to come along, right?
Defend the future of your company. Just
I hope I don't say anything wrong.
Just to give you a little background, Wolfgang is a very knowledgeable guy He did a lot of mobile stuff, is a hardcore fan of doing very smart coding. And his company is a small one, and they have focused very much on doing things with smartness, which others were not able to deliver at a time when it was not easy to get a Nokia phone to really run stuff in a very effective way, just as a little backgrounder, because he is somebody I have a lot of respect for. So that was...
I think we could probably tell a similar story, and what led me to, from tech to having a media company and publishing magazines and newspapers to teach people how to use technology. It's still the same drive. It should be easy. It should be cheap. It should be whatever you dream of without costing you an arm and a leg. And you should know how to use it. It should be simple. It shouldn't be that you have to go to university to understand how to solve a problem using an application.
Yeah.
And what would you respond to Wolfram? I mean, we are talking about that once in a while as well. We see every now and then every now and then, probably now and then and yesterday and tomorrow and a lot of times in between, we do see people who are saying, "Oh, I created this code via ChatGPT."
Okay.
So,
absolutely, this is such a great subject, and I love to talk about this. If we want to talk, I mean, we've got I'm sure an audience that comes along here to hear about no code, low code, have some idea of what AI is and how it works. I'm sure. What's the history? Who founded it? Which people are involved with it and what they're doing with it? Hopefully. If not, AI, just to coin it, is pretty much like a caddy when you're playing golf at this stage. And this is general AI, right? AGI. The caddy will tell you that on this green, number 3, it's 344 yards. You need a 5-iron to get to there. You need the wind out of the tree, because that caddy has played that course himself and he's picked up that information. And he's really there to assist you. And this is what the first stage of AI is, I believe. I think you might have seen some of my posts. Every time there's a new technology, blockchain, whatever it is, as soon as somebody gives an interface to the community or to the public, and it becomes accessible to everybody, there becomes this frenzy. Yeah. And then people are saying, they get scared of it. What about my data, my privacy? Everything's all over the place. And they retract. We can talk about some conversations, I think maybe on CRMKonvo, where we're referring to about people not adapting to AI because of the fear of privacy. So, I think that if we can use AI to ease our workload and assist us, that's where we should start. After this frenzy, I mean, AI is going crazy. It's going to be a market worth about 1.3 trillion in 2030, which is 5 times the no-code, low-code market. That's general, though. But it's first going to go through a trough, and then it's going to come back with proper use cases. There are companies that are actually adapting to it now. There are companies that are using it for formatting emails, checking their system company manuals, and using chatbots and that type of thing. So it is happening. And we believe that should be incorporated even in no-code, low-code app building. You should have an assistant where, if you're going to sit and say, well, I need to build an app. What do you want to build? Answer a few questions, and maybe the assistant comes along and says, there is an app which is similar to that. Why don't you just use that and feature it out some more for yourself? Or there isn't one that suits you. Let's build you one. And then you can iterate over that. But we don't want to go building millions of apps, just thinking about stuff. We want to actually have an ecosystem where those can be incorporated and used over and over again.
For the not so knowledgeable like me, being very honest, can you as an expert elaborate a bit about the difference of no code and low code?
Yeah, sure. Excuse me. So essentially, low code is sort of like a menu-driven application building process, of which some of the parts you have to insert code. You have to build out maybe user authorization, profiles, those type of things. No code is where you don't have to insert any code, which presents another problem because you're feature locked, menu driven. And then pro code is more the combination of two, but a platform which is professionally driven for an enterprise or for a software company that's building software or professional services, that you want to have a system that is a 360 view for everybody involved. Those are people that in security, merging code. Those are application UI, UX builders. Those are managers looking at the timelines and the integrations into other systems to help them manage that. That's what is pro code and what should be used by enterprises.
Right. And of course, programmers are still necessary in the world of low code, no code to build out those applications, but it's hidden from the typical user, right?
Yeah, there's always this pushback. When we started out in 2013, there's always this pushback. Oh, so you're going to replace my job? So it's no code, low code. So I'm not going to do anything. That's actually wrong.
Right.
What it actually does is it takes care of the mundane daily stuff. You have to always do this piece of code to start. You always have to build the server. You have to build the database. And this is really just extrapolating that and giving you that very quickly. So as a coder, if you want to code, can solve an issue using code very quickly as opposed to having to do all this laborious stuff beforehand. So solving a problem quickly, changing and adapting to market change is super important.
I always struggle with if I let whatever chatbot is helping me code some stuff to a problem I cause and tell him, and he gets me some code. How is the heck it afterwards when I want to utilize that artificial created code in my own programs and want to sell it, as I have no longer the property rights, the intellectual property?
Well, there's two things. There's one about intellectual property rights. The other part about is reusing that code and having a proper format, right? I don't think, the examples we're seeing on the internet where somebody can very quickly use ChatGPT to build a table of responses which can be used in generating through another application thousands of reels and then spinning them up to YouTube is a very small example of the way AI shouldn't be used. I think that the code we've seen like AWS Whisper. It's close to actually formatting the code, but it's not quite 100% there. I don't think it will be long before it's there. I think in the interim, whoever's using that should be aware that it could not work. And whoever's presenting that in a platform should make sure it works and allow someone to use generative AI to build code and do things that they wouldn't want to do by sitting and deciding and thinking about how to build it. In terms of the IP, I think code is code. And I think that you could write a process or a piece of code 100 times differently or 1,000 times differently. So I think it's very difficult to say that you can attach IP to code generated by AI. I think, if that was the case, then no code, low code platforms would be the first people that would have a problem, right?
Appreciate that perspective.
Yes.
So where are the limits to low code and no code? I mean, there are, if you're going pro, like low-level programming languages like C++ or even assembly, there's virtually no limit in functionality that you can build. It's only limited by the capabilities of the processor. So, and normally it is like the more you abstract, the less you can do. How far is that true for low-code and no-code as
Thomas,
well?
this is a big pain point, which has led us to one of our core beliefs. What we're seeing, and even in discussions online, which I can refer you to ThoughtWorks last year, November, where they said that the biggest problem, and if you go and research this and have a look at all the dev chat sites and communities, is that the first 80% of no-code, low-code is easy. The next 10% gets a bit difficult and probably have to call in a developer. And the last 10%, you just can't get that done because you can't get underneath the covers. And this is the problem that we're facing as consumers in terms of no-code platforms. So low-code have their issues because of increased attack surface of what the coders have to do to get that working. No-code has the issues in terms of you're now locked into these features. I want to do this, but there is no menu for this, or there is no connection, or there's no component for this. I have to request this feature. I have to put tools down until it's either considered or not considered to come into my tool set. So that is a restriction. And as I say, one of our core beliefs is that one should have, but in a controlled, secure environment, managed environment, the ability to add code to your application functionality and not have to wait for that to be built into the platform. You should be able to make use of thousands of React libraries, JavaScript libraries, and whatever, YAML and TypeScript to do what you want to do.
All right. Well, flipping the question around, are there any functional or line of business areas that benefit particularly from a low code or no code approach?
That is a good question, and it's an evolving question.
Which makes it particularly good.
We've worked in this industry for 10 odd years now, in specifically low code. We've worked with huge companies. When I say huge companies, I'm talking about, I don't have to ring all the names out, but we're talking about, let's talk the top 50 blue chip listed companies, New York Stock Exchange, and developed all kinds of different solutions, really from small scale to global scale. We've had hands-on experience with this industry and with the tools and with our own inventions for the last 10 years. And the types of applications, one application we built, $1.3 billion worth of property went through that application alone in 1 year last year, 2 years ago. And then another application just helped somebody deliver and build outdoor rooms. So there are different use cases. It's very open. I think in particular, if you want me to answer you directly, who could benefit, who does benefit, who could benefit from no code, low code, and pro code are different ones. We're going to look at the public in general as the first. Public in general would probably benefit from no code, AI driven, doing nothing, an app being built very simply, a very simple system. I think that's still a long way off. I think that's the future of that. In terms of low code, I think this should evolve into a no code, but a pro code environment. So a bit of a combination of both, respecting the enterprise security requirements, the enterprise general flexibility requirements. And then we can say that the future use of pro code, AI driven, can be an experimental tool. It can be a data driven tool. It can be a forecasting tool. It can be a customer journey tool. And it can be a combination of all of these bundled with other most useful tools that have already been built. So if you can understand, if it were that we could decide as consumers or enterprises what are the best prices, the quickest way to get there with the best tools, that those should be on a buyer's guide basis, combination of all of those on a single platform that they build and own themselves, decide where to have that data. Maybe that's a bit far.
Well, this sort of jibes with what Wolfram just said, and which I would like to challenge a little. Back then in the early 90s, so now you don't feel that old anymore, I hope, I worked for a little company that had its own development environment. It was Keybase based, by the way. So we had our consultants going out to clients, spec'd and prototyped even the solutions for the client, and pressed a button and out came a running application. No coding involved. These have been all the predecessors of what now is called MBA. So they studied business. Couldn't do a heck of programming, nothing. So the application was there. It was created without any coding, just declaration, including data models, this and that and whatnot, UIs, logic. And then for the details, us programming bees got involved on the same thing, doing C++. This is what I would call the first integrated no-code pro-code environment, or one of the early no-code pro-code environments. I seem to see that this is gone right now. So it's either one or the other right now. Or do you see a convergence there?
I'm looking at convergence. I think once again, we have to look at the technology. It comes from a long way back. It took a UI to bring it into public domain. And I think this is probably a good time where we need to address the industry problems that we've seen and have seen for the last few years, and that is, it's very complex. You can go into a no-code or a low-code platform and go and try and build an app. Some of them it's very easy, but then you find out in the details that there's stuff you can't do that you'd expect should be there. Well, then you can't carry on. Then some of them are like super difficult and take a long time. Then we look at the other aspect is we were talking about just now is being locked into features, not being able to get to the last mile because it just doesn't exist. And I think one of the bottom lines that we wanted to address when we said let's start again is the expense. This should not cost an arm and a leg. We do not believe that, if you're going to decide to build something to try and solve a problem, either to make money or to stop losing money, why should you have to pay to do that? That should be for free. You should be able to spend as much time with as many developers as you want, working in teams, solving that problem. And only once you've solved it, should you start paying, not per user, but actually per user engagement. So on a usage basis. Because if you've got, let's say, 100 users or 50 users you're trying to solve this problem for, and you're buying licenses up front for them, and you take a discount for 12 months or maybe even 24 if you make that mistake, you're paying all of those licenses for those people that may not even be there. They may work 80% only Monday to Thursday. They may be on leave. They may have illnesses at home. So they're not using the system all the time, but you're paying for that. And that's very expensive. So we see that as a big barrier in terms of enterprises solving their problems and scaling up very quickly.
Yeah, well, the expense is another challenge, but how to manage this conversion and how to manage the avoidance of a proliferation of apps being built to avoid getting or seeing this Lotus Notes moment again, where we had ginormous app databases and nobody knew what's there.
Yeah, you need to have some uniformity, some standardization, and you need to have a platform that integrates with your security and with your code formatting and acceptance. So you need to integrate to source control. You need to have somebody checking that code, making sure it's merged fine. You need to have an environment where it's not possible to actually disrupt or bug your production environment. There should be absolutely no downtime. There should be no way that somebody can get into a production environment and just code and push code in there straight away. And I think that's really the challenge. Something else we've spoken about for some years now is trying to form some type of standardization of component architecture, where people can subscribe to a standard format, which is portable between all no-code, low-code platforms, as opposed to being isolated. But I think we're a way off from that. But it may be that in the future, you'd be able to port whatever you used from one platform to the other platform very easily.
Are vendors even interested in that? Are vendors even interested in that? So if I look at a Mendix or a Creatio and a Pega, so I'd like to keep my customers for me and not make it easy for them to switch.
Yeah, this is the thing that enterprises have to battle with is, okay, well, the choice I have to make, and it's being made in my digital transformation, is I have to find a no-code, low-code solution. I have to put this in my bouquet of tools in my enterprise. Which one do I go for? Okay, so the statistics are saying now, well, by next year, I think most enterprises that adopt, which is not a lot at the moment, 2/3 of the market, would have more than 4 no-code, low-code platforms in their bouquet. Which one do you choose for mission critical now? Which one do you actually say is the champion one, which is the fallback one, should all go wrong? If there should be no vendor lock-in. There should be a way to, I want to use this, I want to test it, but everything I spend my energy and money and time on building this test, I need to be able to take this back out and move on if I'm not happy with what this is offering me as a platform. And this is very difficult, I think.
Okay, how do you solve that? In line with, hey, we got a real critic in here. So,
well, call him a bit in your role, Thomas. Like he is from the real hardcore, doing his stuff on tablets and native coding. So he might be a bit critical on that aspect, that about the survival of such a company. If you pay a lot of money and 2 years,
it better be. I'm in the advisory board. So,
well, I think the most important thing is that it needs to be absolutely for free to test, to build, to find that solution. There should be no cost attached to that. And if that solution works, well, then you're paying on a pay-as-you-use basis, while as users are actually adopting that solution and saving that money or making you that money. And if you want to move on after that, well, then you should be able to export all your data. That's yours, for one. Number 2, you might have built some components, but what you can fall back on is that they come from React libraries, which you have full access to all the time. So these inclusions are still yours. We spoke about we should be probably open source. And, well, at this point in the game, we can be open source, and we have what we call a non-vendor lock-in, which says if you really want to back out, we can give you our platform to run on your own servers. We've built it in such a way that developers can actually run the platform locally and develop locally, and then merge changes to the master online. And this should be part of that flexibility where you own the stuff, you can move around. But we're not there yet. I think it will take some time for some kind of standardization in terms of between each platform. What is this standard format that we should be using that is usable by all to be able to be transportable?
Is
at the moment, it's possible.
Is there a green that pushes for the standardization?
No. Like I said, we've been talking about it for about 4 years now. It might be something that we would want to action. We're just being aware of the fact that we don't want to be seen as commercializing ourselves by doing something like that, heading something like that up. It should be an independent thing. We are in Switzerland. We are talking to ETH about different initiatives. Maybe it's an ETH initiative that we can surface. It really reminds me of the story of when cell phones first started. You had each operator with their own set of numbers. If you belong to this operator, your number started with the 082. If you belong to the other operator, 072, and you were locked in. Your identity was tied to the operator. And we're in the same situation with no-code, low-code components in particular, where, we need to move that barrier as they did. They said, fine, you have to allow for users to migrate and keep their numbers. And it should be the same with no-code, low-code in the future.
I was just wondering, we came along some of those chaps which have been known as BPM Online and now Creatio. I was curious if you are able to give us a little view on the market landscape. What is there around on tools which are utilized more heavily or are popular?
Ralph, there are many. We have to look at the verticals too. When we say no code, low code, there are 450 plus so-called no code, low code platforms out there at this point in time.
450 plus.
At least.
Oh my God.
Now, we're not talking about application building platforms in particular. We're talking about all those who have a tag, no code, low code. Different verticals. We've got healthcare, we've got social media, we've got broadcast, and we've got all kinds of applications where they're offered as a no-code, low-code, where the user can actually then go and customize his screen by dragging and dropping pre-built components. But that's related to a hotel app, for argument's sake, or a restaurant app or something like that. So those are the verticals. In terms of no-code, low-code application building, coming to mind, there are still some guys that are coming up. You've got your big boys out there, which is Salesforce, which has adopted no-code, low-code through Lightning, which we were also involved with, by the by. Then you've got people like Mendix, you've got people like OutSystems, you've got Bubble, you've got AppFlow, you've got Appian. One can go and reference the Gartner report as to who they're looking at and who they're reviewing. Who's owning the market space and in terms of how they're owning it would give you a good idea. So I think, some good ones out there. I don't, that there are none of them that actually go and say one thing is, pay as you use. It's all pay up front, lock me in, keep me there forever. Sure. If you're going to give me a big deal, let's talk discount. There are big companies out there which have got a lot of capital to throw at marketing, to throw at pricing, but it's the model that we're looking at. It's the engagement. It's really about, if your problem is being solved by an application you've built, then your cost should be far less than either your profit or what you're saving from the word go, not 2 years down the line after a huge bill.
Now, we talked a lot about building apps, creating apps, and if I'm now looking at all those vendors, they are saying two things. Citizen developer, and even worse in my book, democratization of software development. Basically, everybody, what they want to say is everybody can do. It should do, probably. But should everybody do? Who's the real customer for a low-code environment?
It hurts to see adverts where it says it's so easy, even a child can do it.
Our children program better than we do. That's.
I think I have to tell a story about a car manufacturer in Germany I went to visit, who just put robots in a huge section of their factory.
Hey, they're starting to use robots as German car makers. Oh my God!
And the one of the questions from somebody was like, "Well, what about all these people? They've lost their jobs." It's like the guy said, "Actually, Yeah, some of them did, but most of them got upgraded to manage these robots, and they actually get paid a lot more. And we thought it would be cheaper, labor costs, actually more expensive. But if you look at what the product defect margin is, it's so low, we can afford 2 or 3 more of these teams. And I think that's what Pro Code should be doing. We should take
local
those artisans that we are and those coders that there are and lift them to that level where let the robots do all the dirty work and let's get creative and write some really crazy stuff and make a difference. And let's even experiment with AI and let's make it secure. Let's make it private, and let's let it do what it's built to do and support us and make our tasks lighter and faster.
So in business apps terms, the IT department is the customer, not the line of business.
I would say that there's a good team working there, and or there should be a good team working there. You know, when you're working with an enterprise and you've got the department who has a pain point, they do like to build a spreadsheet which shows that pain point and how it's being solved. Why not give them that ability? That once they've done that crude bit of work and saved the customer services team the time to understand the problem, that be immediately available to the developers or the UX or the UI guys to continue where they've left off. It saves a lot of time. It should be easy enough to wireframe your problem. It should be easy enough to add your database. Now you want to go further and do some calls to AWS Lambda perhaps, or some IoT devices or satellites or something crazy. Well, then let's get our coder guys in to build that integration and then incorporate it securely in that application for you.
So if I'm looking at Mark's comment, the robot is the code generator in this time.
Well, now we have to worry about the matrix.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I was just wondering, when you mentioned a German car manufacturer you have visited, I was thinking about somebody who is doing some try and error in electrical cars and has been stuck for a certain amount of time in getting his software up and running. He would have
you mean the big one at the end of the alphabet with the 2 letters based in Wolfsburg?
Yeah, I wouldn't have said that one. But there was a legion of business programmers which did not get their act together. They changed even like unsuccessful football teams, their CEOs, I would say, in a quarterly basis. Yeah. So I was honestly worrying how these people with that proven track record in getting nothing gone, how they will manage their future if software is getting so important. Either they go off for Android car or Apple car or something like that, or do they have fair options to get their act sorted with such brilliant technology?
I'd rather not think about there being separate Apple and Android cars. Thank you very much. It's too much learning when you get behind the wheel.
I get a shiver thinking of Android cars.
Yeah, well, then you should watch out if you go into the news that the commitment for some car makers to go heavily into cooperating and integrating Android,
but not for the base car functionality. It's more like the higher level one. But anyways, the wrong topic. Wrong topic. And for the record, Google Maps works better than the BS than those Germans deliver. Also some Chinese. So I navigate my Volvo with Google Maps, not with the built-in application system.
No, I was honestly in that the software for stuff which needs to be reliable, such as a robot who is doing operating stuff, that how to create programs for this with low code, no code, if this is a safe approach. So was my intention with talking about the car, and that I just in preparation for that convo today looked a bit into what is in the car and manufacturing industry very hype in the moment.
It's I think there's probably a lot of stuff we don't know about or hear about in the big organizations. I know that from a recent survey, there's a commitment towards AI implementation for next year and onwards, more so than before. Don't forget, AI has been around for a long time. It's just we're talking about generative now, right? So I think that having a secure environment to release your solutions or your workflows of AI adaptation is very important. One has to, especially as an enterprise, be very careful of your attack surface all the time. I think that's your CTO's constant go to sleep thought. You need to choose a provider that guarantees that security, that gives you that facility for that security. We're not talking about security, I'm talking about having your information in your private space. You need to have guarantees that is not pokeable or open to theft or to online misuse. I think that's one has to choose and think about those things when choosing a place to do that. I think that if you look at the movement in AI and what the different companies, enterprises, the bigger providers are doing at the moment is very interesting. I think that it's a bit shameful in a way, the way they're competing against each other and recklessly offering solutions to the public without taking full steps to ensure security, and not just trying to monetize it, because that's what everybody's trying to do, but to actually make something useful, make something that, as I said earlier, provides an assistance to you as opposed to a risk to you.
How do you secure an environment, a low-code environment? I mean, at the end, for the user, both types of users, the creator users and the user users. So the users that use what the creators took or built, they need to be reasonably sure that there are not too many bugs in there.
There's something that you can't do to consumers is tell them that they should do one thing. You've always got to give them this menu of things they can do, these different opportunities or selections that they can choose from, to make it democratic, to make it free, and to make it easy. You have to actually then also be aware of what each one is doing, but you can't shut off the consumer to one specific thing. I think as a no-code platform or a pro-code platform, making your platform infrastructure independent, as we have done, that you can have this running on Google or on Microsoft or on AWS, is then your choice. The tools that you extend to use, have a look at what AWS does with Bedrock, have a look at the security systems, have a look at Google's, have a look at Microsoft or Azure systems, and then you can do your assessments as an enterprise. I'm not saying that any one of them is wrong. I'm just saying maybe some are slightly better than the other and sometimes cheaper than the other and have a different pricing model.
Yeah, but how to ensure that the thing is reasonably secure and reasonably bug-free? Because it's a huge, even for the developer, the low-code developer, the citizen developer, who gets
Yeah.
democratized. Sorry, can't resist.
Well, there's two
For
things.
those guys, it's a black box.
You're talking about security and you're talking about bug free. First off,
True.
look at security. I know that AWS security uses AI and LLM and prediction models to secure their VPN or their cloud. I know Google has different centers which do this on a constant basis. I'm not 100% sure how Microsoft does, but I'm sure pretty similar. So that's how they do it. And I think that there are other tools that one can also integrate and add a second integration on top of that. I think being portable, choosing the infrastructure, being able to choose infrastructure is really important. I think the portability also then allows you to be on premise. So you can put this behind your own security system as opposed to relying on somebody else's security system. Adding another layer of security. So that's how enterprises can double, triple, and even quadruple their security in deploying this. In terms of bug-free, one needs to separate your production and your development environment completely. There should be an absolute huge line or a hole between the two. There should be no contact between the two other than being able to pass what's already tested and working from development and secured into production. And then knowing, obviously, that can't be broken again, that somebody can't go and break into that specific release and do something wrong. That is super important. I think that in terms of the development environment, it needs to be an environment where it's open to play, but it also needs to be integrated with security and source control. Because once you've actually developed something in your development environment, it's gone through those processes of security, source control, and compliance, that thing never has to be secured, tested again. It doesn't have to go through that whole process. It can just be reused and reused and reused over and over again without opening any attack surfaces. I think that's super important.
Yeah, but what I now heard is that a low-code vendor, name them X, outsources the security of and the safety of their code to the runtime environment, which is hard to believe. So I'm quite sure that there needs to be some means within what gets generated as code, and I assume there's some code generation going on under the hood, this code is in itself.
Oh, no. So you have to be very aware of the difference between the code on the platform, which is an infrastructure. That platform doesn't generate code for, let's say, AI or for specific integrations. That platform is really there as a vehicle to do that. And once you start doing that on that vehicle, on that platform, that's when you need your security to come in. That's when you need your compliance officers and security to check the code, to check the formatting, to make sure that has a specific standard. Enterprises' biggest problems that they have is that they tell a UX or a UI guy to add a function to a button to perform a workflow. And depending on which guy that's doing it, and it could be done 30 or 40 different times, different ways. It can be done many different ways with different people. And you want to set a standard on that. And this is where you can do this with component architecture, no code, low code, where you've got these blocks that you put together, and each block you build it once, you test it once, it goes through compliance once, and then becomes part of the bigger wall or the bigger building that you're busy building, as opposed to being just some code which opens attack surfaces.
Now I out myself as unknowledgeable. So now every piece of code, nearly every piece of code, has the odd bug. How about upgradable? So you have this building block that you created via your low-code, no-code environment. How to make sure that if you identified a bug in this block, black box, fixed it, that it's pretty much automatically reused by everything that uses it?
Well, this is where you need automated testing. So beyond the human eye, beyond human control in terms of standardization or security check, you need automation. So automated testing is a very important part. Once you've made those changes, and once before you go to production, that automation testing takes place and passes or doesn't pass, and you see why as a last step. The other thing that, when you release something like that, let's say a new version into your production environment, the traditional way of reversing that is it's a mammoth task. It's source code control. It's reverting changes to code. That shouldn't be the case. It should be merely being able to say, well, I'm on version 1.13 in production. They don't like the color of the screen the developer put in there. I roll back to 1.12 just by changing the version control, and it's live. And that should be possible, and that's what we've done.
What you're basically saying is it's the usage, or the user of whatever system, of whatever component needs to actively upgrade themselves.
When you talk about the components are independent, as I was saying, the platform that we've built is ready. It's the vehicle, so it's the bus. Everything else that you put inside that bus belongs to you. You go and put that code in. That's your control. And we've allowed you to, change the passengers or do whatever you want to, and really extend your community within your bus. Or maybe the bus is the wrong example. Maybe it should be a ship that just keeps growing. The more people you put on, I'm not sure. I'm failing.
The bus works as an example. If you think of a party bus, you can trust the driver not to crash into anything, but anything stupid you do on the bus is up to you.
You got it. That is well coined. I think I'll be using that in the future, if you don't mind.
With pleasure.
And attribution.
Very good. Yes, of course. We always do that.
So, I think we elegantly passed over it, and I didn't really hear who's the real customer or the ideal customer of a low-code solution.
Okay, so it was either what's your flavor, who you are you an enterprise, or you're a startup? I think if you're a business, that's who the person that should benefit from no-code, low-code. It's the business solution.
Okay, how then? This means everybody to me. So everybody and the dog to add them, plus the pups. So this opens up the government's challenge again. What do no-code providers then need to offer in order to avoid the Lotus Notes mayhem?
Thomas, it's standardization. I think it's in the hands of the larger providers at the moment, who are sort of pretty much trying to drive that. I think there's a lot of confusion in the market as to who should actually benefit from this, or who can benefit from this.
Yeah,
I think that some of us would like to believe that we would like to believe that after 10 years of being involved in this industry, that anybody should be able to write an application or have an application even by just talking to their device. We're not there yet. Our roadmap is we've got AI in. It's helping you develop. It's saving you time with your architecture. It's saving you time filling your architecture with sample data. It's going to go to another level where it's going to say, well, what type of app, and suggest perhaps the type of databases you need, the relationships. We've got other automation at the moment which generates your screens view automatically, your detail and list views. It will be an automated build to the end, where all you're looking at saying, well, go live. and people start subscribing to your app. Who is that audience? The enterprise? I don't think so. All the consumers? I don't think so. I think that is still to be decided only by what AI is going to give us in terms of adaptable possibilities in this process of delivering no-code, low-code, and applications to the market. I do believe that to come back to the apex of this, it is business. I do believe that it's enterprises that are already doing a lot of business that can take advantage to make the consumers' lives easier when interacting with them, with the suppliers, when ordering, when supplying. I think those parts will come. In terms of the no-code, it's the pro-code, I think, is our future. We're looking at standardization. We're looking at using tools which developers are used to, types, JavaScript, TypeScript, YAML, those type of things, giving them the infrastructure securely to go and experiment and to build and to get to that point of experimentation and problem solving very quickly. It's a road, but I do believe that the enterprises in pro-code are the consumers, and in the end, their customers and consumers will benefit from that.
Let me rephrase it a little, because I don't get it. Maybe I'm too old or didn't have enough coffee. So who should not be allowed to create applications using low-code, no-code in a business environment? Except of me.
Look, if I was your boss and you said to me, I'm going to build an app on a low-code, no-code platform, I'm going to ask you, can you do a spreadsheet? And if you say to me, yes, I can, I would say to you, well, give it a try. But you spend more than 3 hours on that, you're wasting my money.
Okay.
Depends on how often I need to build this spreadsheet, right?
Well, what problem are you actually going to solve? I mean,
not giving money to Microsoft for Excel.
How much money are we going to spend for this idea, and how much is this idea going to either make or save us? I think would be the question answered.
So basically, everybody who can make the business case for solving their issue shall be able to build an own app.
I would say that we keep falling back into business. Where does business start? Business starts with the idea of selling something or service or product, whatever it is. Okay? And if you've got that mindset, I'm sure you can do some maths. And you can vision a bit about the future and start doing some figures and forecasts. And I think if you are willing to experiment and if you're willing to play, I think you should be doing no code, low code. You never know. You might have a hidden talent. You might even start
start your own business.
You might just go onto our platform and start teams and invite people in to build apps with you. Who knows?
Maybe. I mean, I'm always coming from this nightmare that got created there in the 80s, 90s, and that cost businesses far more. So each individual app is probably built faster and cheaper than doing this spreadsheet all over. But as I didn't tell Ralph and Marshall about me having built this app, they do it the same. And all of a sudden, I have 3 of them. And then they forgot where they stored it, so it's 4 and 5. And
so
at that point in time, it becomes more expensive.
I think
inefficient.
You've actually just brought up something very quickly, and I know we're on time. We're being held as consumers and enterprises hostage to platforms who manage your programs. We're going to give you your own platform to manage your own programs. You should be able to go to one place and manage all your applications, all your users across all what you do in one place. And I think that's the part where a lot of the enterprises are being held hostage by the bigger enterprises who actually own everything that you build, as opposed to you being able to own it yourself.
So the solution is for businesses to govern themselves in terms of generating new processes.
Absolutely. They should have constant ownership.
Works for me.
Same. And
And free.
we are on top of the hour. Sorry that I made it a little bit of the hot seat, so probably I should invite you to that show as well. We usually end with what I call famous last words. So they're not terminal last words, but last words of the show. So, looking forward. So there's this whole conglomeration of process mining. There's low code, there's enterprise architecture, there's governance, there's generative AI. So in how far, and if so, where do you see this whole stuff merging?
I think very quicker than we think. I think that people that provide platforms for people to experiment are going to be the bridge to speed that up. I think that and I hate to go back to this, I think that the COVID epidemic forced a lot of enterprises to move from in-house to cloud-enabled, which has awakened them. And they're more adaptive to technology now than before. So I think that will speed things up as well. And then as they realize that they want their data out of cloud back into their own environment, start going cloud native, and then adapting these AI solutions into their own enterprises. I think we're talking 3-4 years, and we should see quite a big change.
Wow.
Okay. Right. Life stays exciting.
Good for us.
Thanks a lot, Gregg.
Yeah.
And thanks a lot to everybody who was there and still is there. So let's hope for next week when we have another, let's look forward to next week where we have another great show.
Better.
And yeah, see you soon. Going backstage now.